going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
Hiya, here we are again for Patriots Across The Pond and Friends, episode 44. And today we have a returning guest from BreakingBarlow.com, Ben Barlow. No introductions necessary as we went all through that last time. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Watching everything go on. It's escalating.
It's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I'm seeing unfold big time. I never really got the NPC, non-player characters, as everybody has been saying that for the last year. And it really hit me because one of my buddies that is not involved in politics at all, has not been involved in politics. He's my same age. We're 57. Never had any interest in politics, never had any interest in religion. And of course, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. And so over the last probably 10 years, just slowly bringing him into spirituality and God, which he grew up Catholic. And so he shunned that all off because it was shoved down his throat all of his life, like most of us that are our age. It was shoved down our throats as shame and guilt and blame, and you'll never be like Christ, and you'll never be good enough, and you'll always be a sinner. Just all that garbage. And so he's not religious. His kids are not religious. They don't really have any spirituality in their life. And so he also never got into politics. Well, since I started putting on my seminar series in 2020, and I've been across the United States from California to Florida, from Texas all the way up to North Dakota, putting on these how to take back your rights and your freedoms and liberties. And that was a seminar series called Ben Barlow Presents Your Right, Your Life. So I went and did that across the United States. And then I started up a TikTok video in 2022, the end of January of 2022, because we'd go to Lake Powell every single year. And his daughters would do TikTok videos, but he wouldn't allow them to post it on TikTok. You can do like little creations, but you couldn't you can keep them and still not post them. So I went down there in December of 2022 for their biannual Christmas party, and they said, Uncle Ben, come do a video with us. And I'm like, what kind of video? They're like, a TikTok video. I'm like, I'm not doing that stupid stuff. What? You're going to naked girls and naked women? No, I'm not doing that. So they said, come on. I said, okay, if you can get your dad to come do it, thinking he would never do it. If you can get your dad to do it, I'll do it with you. Yeah, they go running off. They're 14. They go running off, and they come back with him in tow. Now have to do a TikTok video with these girls. So we did a little dance and TikTok video. Well, then that weekend I realized, because I woke up to do some bids. I'm a general contractor here in Utah. So I woke up really early in the morning because they've got people in town. There's always somebody up. So I wake up at 5 in the morning and I go to the kitchen and big, massive living room and everything. It's all connected. And I sit down on the countertop to get some quiet time and do some bids. And I see over on the couch, there's a light on the couch, like somebody's phone. So I'm like, who in the heck is up this early? So I go walking over there and I said, who's up this early? And she says, it's me, Uncle Ben. It's Katie, her little friend. And I'm like, Katie, what are you doing up at 5 in the morning? She said, watching TikTok. And I'm like, what in the heck is so interesting on TikTok at 5 in the morning? She said, Uncle Ben, you want to learn something? I'm like, what's TikTok going to teach me? She said, you want to learn how to pick a lock? I'm like, no. She said, yeah, sit down. So she sat a 3-minute video on how to pick a lock. I'm like, no kidding, really? I'm just thinking it's dancing girls and half naked women.
Right.
She says, well, you're in construction. Do you want to learn a construction hack? I'm like, I've been in construction so long. What's TikTok going to teach me? And she pulls up a framing hack that I've never seen before. I'm like, wow. So that was December 18th to the 22nd that I was in Cave Creek, Arizona. I flew back to Salt Lake City. I did about 25 days of investigating TikTok and found out that, holy smokes, there's so much information on TikTok. And watched how all the politicians were coming out against TikTok. So I started posting videos on Admiralty Maritime Law, the Cesta K Trust, and everything that I teach in the seminars just to get more people to come to the seminars. And my TikToks literally went from, so now keep this in mind, beginning of February 2022, I had went to Texas in April and did a seminar down there. And then in June, I was doing a seminar here in Salt Lake City again. One of the guys came up from Texas and we went out to dinner and he said, Ben, do you know that your TikTok videos have been watched 1.4 million times? I'm like, no way. They keep me trapped. Now TikTok did, because I talked about Khazarian Mafia and all this other stuff, which is Israel. And so they did keep me relegated at 77,000 some odd followers. They'd never let me get over 80. It'd drop back down to 72,000, get up to about 78, drop back down, and keep on that flow. He's like, oh man, 1.4 million views of your videos. I'm like, oh, that's bull crap. I've got 77,000 followers. I got over 180,000 likes, which you have to have 100,000 likes and 100,000 followers in order to monetize TikTok. But they kept me trapped. And so he says, no, look, and he pulls it up and he goes, oh.
Ben, you're digitizing a little, like it's going in and out. I don't want to go too far and lose what you're saying.
He says, holy smokes, and he pulled it up and he said, I was wrong, 1.6 billion views. I'm like, no kidding. He's like, look right here, and he pulls it up and he shows it to me. By November of 2022, 27.7 billion views.
Wow.
Because I was teaching Admiralty Maritime Law. I was teaching what they keep us trapped into here in the United States, over there in England and all those countries. We are chattel property. And people don't understand these things. So my buddy's wife is an OBGYN. I was teaching her how they do the birth certificates. She truly is the NPC. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't care about anything. It's too much information. She thinks it's all conspiracy theory. And I'm like, this is how our world is ran. So my buddy is now very much following the politics because he realizes how it's affecting their investments. He's very much now gotten into crypto. I got him into crypto. Not that we know a lot, but we know that that's where the world monetary system's going, is to crypto. And if you don't get into crypto now, if you don't understand and learn, it doesn't mean you need to be a pro at any of this, but you have to be aware of what's going on in this world, guys, because it is ever changing and you're going to get left behind. You cannot be an NPC in today. You have to be aware of what's going on, just like what's going on over in Iran. The picture is so much bigger than what we are aware of.
Oh, yeah.
So,
sure. Well, I was just thinking the other day that if you look at the Matrix film, we are all Neo, and the NPCs, the normies, are all Mr. Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're fighting it. They don't, this. The Khazarians have been so successful at the indoctrination of our nation and of other nations. And so here we are, we're over with this big war in Iran. What's kind of slipped behind the scenes? What's going on with Jeffrey Epstein? Because it was starting to show that Bibi Netanyahu was also tied up with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. But what a lot of people don't realize, because they're just all up in arms, oh, Trump's one of them. Trump's not one of them. Trump was one of the ones revealing who they are. I truly believe Trump has always been an FBI informant, way back. And so I watched a Dr. Jack Cruz, and if any of you, if you guys want to see what's been happening across the world, especially here in the United States, Dr. Jack Cruz is a neurosurgeon, and he's a big Bitcoiner, and he tells us what they've been doing with all the laws. And so he's now moved to El Salvador, what was one of the most treacherous countries, and now one of the safest countries out there.
Yeah.
And they do Bitcoin. So he moved down there. He's tied up with the president of El Salvador. He's a big mover and shaker, but he's revealing in his podcast that he's doing on other podcaster shows how through the LED lights are breaking us down, making us unhealthy. All the foods, he's coming out saying all that stuff. He came out and said, guys, Jeffrey Epstein was not child trafficking. Remember how the FBI found they didn't have anything showing that he was child trafficking. What Jeffrey Epstein was actually doing with Bill Gates and all these other ones was breaking the genome code. Jeffrey Epstein did want to create his own race. He was doing that. But he wasn't. Now, they may have been stealing kids. He did have tunnels underneath Epstein Island that he filled up with concrete, so nobody could find what was in there. But he was actually doing something so much more dastardly than child trafficking. That's why they haven't revealed anything. And are they going to reveal it? That's what we've got to ask that question, because there's still two sides of our government that are in control, playing, whether you want to call them white hats and black hats. Now I'm hearing there's gray hats as of a year ago. Well, the white hats weren't acting fast enough, so the gray hats stepped in. I'm like, oh my gosh.
If you listen to Ricardo Bosi, there's all sorts of different colour hats. He's got a presentation. He goes through orange hats, red hats, all this sorts of stuff. It's quite impressive to listen to, really. And we've got him on at the end of March. But yeah, I mean, look, I mean, we've been discussing this lately, the fact that if people think this paedophilia is the be all and end all of it, it is not. It goes far deeper than that. It is satanic. It is, demonic, anti-spiritual. Jason Q talks about these people coming in and out and using mirrors. It is really, really deep how this all goes.
You know this. I'm friends with Jason Q.
Yeah.
I did the truth tour with Jason.
Okay.
Yeah. We have him on every Friday. It's great to have him on. But yeah, it's...
Well, and so this is what people have to realize too, is that we invaded Iraq because there was a portal there, and there's Nephilim. There's other things that are down under the ground over there.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh's tomb is over there. We went in and took all the antiquities out of Iraq. Now think about that. Why would we go in and invade a country and steal all their antiquities? Do you guys know?
Because they were going to use them for the nefarious purposes.
Well, how about we rewrite the whole history?
Yeah.
Have you guys looked at Tartaria? We don't know anything about Tartaria. They have literally rewritten history.
Yeah.
The Tartarians had a banking system that was fees only, not usury. And so the Tartarian Empire started when the Knights Templar ended. Where did the Knights Templar go? And if you look at the Great Wall of China, we've been told it was built by the Chinese.
No, because it's sloped wrongly, isn't it? It's not for the Chinese to keep people out. It's for other people, the other side of it, to keep them that side.
And let me tell you something. I've walked the Great Wall of China. There's no way these little guys were sitting there like with little, bricks and...
Yeah. Well, so that's the Tartarian side. The archer holes were against the Chinese side. If the Chinese build it, why would the archer holes be on the Chinese side?
Right. Exactly.
So, and what I found through the research that I've been doing is the Rothschild bloodline went in and took over the Tartarian banking system. So this is the World's Fair where we had the Cabbage Patch Kids, all the incubator babies. Where did all those babies come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is not anybody who was of age to carry on any of their memories they killed.
Yeah.
And anybody that was malleable in their mind was shipped out to other countries. Now think about this too. All the insane asylums were built like big, monstrous mansions. Who did the insane asylums hold? Well, obviously, we've been told people that are totally crazy. How about people that had memories?
Yeah.
People that could tell stories of history. So this world we live in, we don't have any clue what is true and what is not. We only have what we've been indoctrinated with. And this is why the conspiracy theory, it was created for JFK.
Yeah.
But JFK didn't want Israel getting a nuclear bomb. That's why they killed JFK.
Well, they killed him for a lot of reasons. I
Well,
mean,
there's various reasons.
he was against everyone, and he knew.
Well, and he was going to disrupt their banking system.
Yep.
And it all has to do with these Khazarians, Rothschilds, Edomites, Canaanites. They're not God's chosen people, but they beguiled us into thinking. That's the Schofield Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Was commissioned by the Rothschilds to give to all the American pastors, priests, and bishops to teach us about the Zionism and following along with what your government says and following the law when it's legal, not lawful, because God's law is the real law. But that's where the NPCs come in, and you tell them things like this, and they're just like, none of that's true. Like, man, if you only knew.
Well, I think that's why the way they're rolling out the truth has to be done this way, because when people people's belief systems becomes their identity, so it's shattering. And we look at it sometimes as, what's wrong with these people? Like, why are they so dumb? Why don't they want to understand? Why are they, turning their back on knowledge? But it goes a lot deeper. It's very psychological. If your whole identity, especially people in some of these professions, right? That's their whole identity. It's what they've studied. It's what they align with. It's a strong person that's able to say, okay, let me open my mind and, think about.
Let's look at it in a different light too, along the same lines of what you're saying. We in the United States have exalted lawyers and doctors.
Yeah.
Exalted them like they're godlike standards. And when they fight, but lawyers know, guys, they know the difference between legal and lawful. They know. We just don't know.
I'm not sure if a lot of them know. I'm going to be honest with you, because even when I have conversations with lawyers, they look at you like you deer in a headlight. And I hate to break it to you, they're not that smart. They memorize shit.
Well, they're no different. I'm a salesman for construction. They're a salesman for legal.
Right.
There's a guy, Alpine, Utah is a very wealthy city down here. Alpine and Highland. And one of these guys has this big, I went over there and looked at some things he needed done in his house. And I said, well, what do you do for work? He said, oh, I'm a lawyer. I'm like, really? Where's your law firm at? He says, oh, I fly out to California because I've got a law firm and all these lawyers that are underneath me. I own the whole thing. So he flies out there every week. And so I started, as we're sitting there talking, I said, well, do you know that law is an acronym? He's like, what? I said, land, air, water, common law, canon law, and admiralty maritime law. He said, where did you learn that? I said, I've learned that. I've studied a lot of stuff. He's like, wow, I've never heard that before.
You should have said TikTok.
But a lot of these guys, so what we have to comprehend is they've all studied contract law. That's how they become lawyers. Well, that's how they become attorneys. To a turn, to take from one to give to another. That's what an attorney does. A lawyer, which we use them as interchangeable terms, a lawyer is in your defense of the law. Attorneys don't know the law. They know legal, contract law, admiralty maritime. And that's where we should have been taught this stuff in high school and junior high.
That's why they didn't teach us it.
Well, they taught us nothing that would help.
Right.
They taught us all the things to be good little slaves.
Yeah.
How to, I mean, look at the schools in America. They're little institutionalized prisons.
Mhm.
What I call
Exactly what
pre-prison.
they are.
And get your kids out of these public schools. Home educate your kids. There's so many programs out there. You don't need, it's just like marriage. You don't need the blessing of the state to educate your child. You don't need the blessing of a state to get married.
Yeah.
It just is not, you don't need it. There's so many things that we have to unlearn. That's where we're at. But this is what I'm going to say to you guys. I love Trump. I've always supported. I was hardcore Trump before everybody was hardcore Trump. I've had a big 4x8 Trump for president sign in my yard since 2015.
I'll go you one better. I'll go you
Go
one
ahead.
better. When I was in, well, because of course I'm from Queens and so is he. But when I was in college, he was my total hero as an entrepreneur because that's what I wanted to do. And I had a picture of him in my wallet.
There you go. Nice. Well, I've been watching Trump since Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and the Miami Vice days. You know, so as young kids, he was the American prince.
Yeah.
If you want to look at princes, kings, he was the American prince. And so I had a 2x8 underneath that 4x8 Trump for president sign. I had a 2x8 for prison. And what I'm saying to you guys is this. The Rothschild financial system is dead. It's been dying for decades upon decades upon decades. Anybody that came out with a system that could function alongside the Rothschild central banking system, they killed it. And they killed them. Or they made life so rough on them that they chose to go into the dark.
Right.
We knew the system had to change. Trump was brought in to, my understanding was, end the bankruptcy of the United States. We've been in receivership this whole time. That's how they're selling off everything. All of our national parks and everything have been sold off. It's owned by UNESCO and other entities because we're in receivership. They've never pulled us out of this bankruptcy. They never finalized the bankruptcy. So that's my understanding originally was Trump was going to pull us through and finalize bankruptcy, which then puts us back in position of power. Now, the banking system is this Federal Reserve central banking system, and it's not what we believe it is. Banks aren't banks. Courts are banks. We are the banks. The banks are the banks. They just facilitate paperwork. We, the people, are the blood and treasure of this country. We are the bank. Through the International Monetary Fund and the Cesta K Trust that they set up, the fractional reserve banking system. We are the one by our signatures that create the money that they create. We authorize that money to be created through our signatures and through getting loans. And that's how they do usury. This is where on a $100,000 house, you end up paying $450,000, $550,000 by the end of that 30-year loan.
Yeah.
But that's the system that they set up. So we've got to go into a new system. And so this is where your CBDCs come into play, which are now going to be stable coins. It never stopped, guys. Remember here in America, they said, oh, no, we voted against CBDCs, but they're doing it over there in Europe, right?
Well, they're trying. There's a lot of people standing up to it.
Yes. Because being aware, being a non-player character is going to allow them to do whatever they want. But the more of us that wake up and say no and take charge, because we, the people, have the actual power, not the power players. But that's why they've kept us so indoctrinated and so dumbed down.
Yeah.
And so CBDCs are going to come on the scene. Stable coins are going to take the place of CBDCs, and you're going to be taxed because they're going to be centralized. So now Trump's calling for no income tax, and they're pushing no more property tax. There's a couple of states that are going for no more property tax as well. And that's a blessing, guys. We should never be paying these taxes. We never were meant to pay these taxes. And so the more people that wake up to this reality, you've got to get opened up to crypto. You got to understand, because that's the new financial system, whether you like it or not. It's going to be crypto. Still is going to be currency. But see, what is the true money, guys? Do you know what true money is?
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver is the only true money. Now, why is that? Because God created it.
Yep.
Currency is what they create. And so that's what we've got to comprehend, is we've got to get out of the currency. We've got to take our financial interest into our own hands and not leave it up to central bankers or investment firms. This is why they were against crypto, because the banks couldn't do anything with crypto. They couldn't make money off of crypto. You yourself could purchase the crypto. You yourself could handle your crypto. You yourself could sell your crypto, so that it blocked them out. That's why they sued it first.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the politicians came out against it. Well, who are the politicians working for? The banks.
Yep.
Big corporate entities, the Rothschilds. And so that's what we've got to comprehend, is the only way to be sovereign is by making yourself sovereign. And a lot of people don't even understand what that means. The only time they've ever heard somebody called sovereign, you would know this, dude. Who's the only sovereign that they speak of?
The royal family.
The Queen.
Yeah, the Queen is the only sovereign that they speak to. But when our founding fathers came here to America, they made themselves sovereign by fighting that war of independence. But we never won the war of independence. That's the indoctrination aspect.
Yeah.
The king left all of his soldiers here as governmental services to the people. When they came here to this country, they didn't want to be governed. They wanted to be left the hell alone, because there was a religious aspect and a morality aspect that everyone brought here. And that's even been stolen from us.
Yeah.
Because they've indoctrinated us through TV and through violence and through all this sexuality. And that's what we've got to get back. And it's not a, your rights end where mine begin. In America, because we have a freedom of religion, you have to also allow those the freedom to worship Satan. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. Now, do we put up with it?
No, I don't.
Well, we don't want to. And in the old days, what would they do with those people? We were told they burned them all at the stake, the witches and stuff. But we were also misled there, because the witches were the actual ones who were doing herb healing.
Yeah.
We were told a story of who they were. We weren't told who they really were. They weren't going along with the medicine system that they created.
Well,
so we have to be very aware of who we're going to burn at the stake and who's actually doing what. And that's where they created these laws that work against us, is taking on these evil people as citizens. You can't have mob rules, right? Everybody's got rights and they get to go to court, but the court system, court system protects the criminal. It doesn't, and it puts those of us in jail. I think there's a guy running for sheriff down in Texas right now.
Yeah, Doc P. Chambers.
His daughter was being molested and he went in. Did he beat the guy to death?
I don't know about that.
I think he's being tried, and he's running for, because somebody was molesting his daughter and he caught him. And whether he beat them within an inch of their life or he beat them to death, that's what he's going on trial for.
Well, didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know
Now,
that.
I don't know about you guys. He wouldn't have made it if it was my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd gladly go serve the prison sentence, but why should he go serve prison?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is where the court system's totally messed up. But see, this is what we've got to comprehend, is the system is not set up to preserve your rights. The system is set up to suck you into the system to make money off of you.
Yeah.
The longer they hold him through court, because this is what people don't realize. The Sestake Trust was created with that money. It's by purchasing treasury bonds, United States treasury bonds. They're being bought and sold on the stock market in a secret account. As you get trapped in the system, they do a bond on your court case.
Right.
That bond now gets put out into the system. It now gets bought and sold. So it's the courts are making money on the court case behind the scenes, and you don't even know that. But now all of a sudden they're liquidating your bonds into currency to pay the court for the cases that it handles. So they're double dipping. Now, anything that you go through, such as, let's say they send him to prison, now they're going to pull all the money out of that Cesta K trust to pay for his prison stay, while they're taxing the state that he's in to pay for the prison stay. Then as he gets out on adult parole and probation, they're going to now pull money out of that secret account to pay for his adult parole and probation, while the state now taxes him for the cost of his probation and parole. He's got to pay back some kind of restitution. That's how the system is set up, to just keep milking us as citizens so that we can never get ahead, and we're always just about to fall behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it has been set up like that for generations, obviously, hasn't it? But a lot of people are waking up to it, and I do believe things are changing behind the scenes, and I do believe we're going to move into a golden age, and it might have to get a bit worse and hairy before we get there. And we might even see, talking about the NPCs and CBDCs, the fact that we may even see some sort of a timeline split where it was like the jab, really. You had a choice, you took it or you didn't. It might even be the same with that. And the people that do decide to go down that route might be in trouble. But I think that might have to occur to wake those people up. You know, it's child trafficking doesn't wake them up. Election fraud doesn't wake them up. The COVID, they still think that's real. You know, it might have to hit them in the pocket.
All around you from the COVID shot, and there's still people going and getting the COVID shot.
I know. And proud.
Yes. But let me say this, guys, about this golden age. This is my concern. Here in the United States, they're implementing smart cities. I think we talked about this before. Surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting you to the authorities, and tracking you. We've got 5 smart cities going up here in Utah. They're going up in every state. With the implementation of Palantir, Peter Thiel's company. Now think about that. You guys have heard of Palantir, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They have instituted Palantir in every country across the world. The only ones that didn't do it was Sweden. The only one. So if they're creating smart cities, they're chemically spraying our skies. They're putting up all this 5G, now 6G, now 7G. Do you know why they're doing that?
Well, my understanding of the towers, at least in the United States, was that frequency was changed a while ago because that was supposed to zap us and knock us off.
They said it was. They said it was. Do you know what the ether is? Have you heard of the ether? Okay, they took the ether off the periodic table. It is very real. It's not on the periodic table anymore. They're trying to replicate the ether with the towers. That's why they're placed specifically the way they are. It's because they're going to replicate the ether. And so in this golden age, my concern, guys, because we can't allow anybody to be in control of our sovereignty as a nation or as a world, as a populace, because they're all looking and vying for control. You've got Palantir in every country but one. You're now getting the technology boom in every country. You're going to have, which is going to be the control grid, which is going to control the money. You can have all the crypto you want. You can be as sovereign as you want. If you can't exchange it back into the current system, you're done. That's what Jack Cruz talks about. There's no way they can control Bitcoin because Bitcoin is decentralized to the point that they can't do anything about it. but they will control your stable coins. They will control everything else, and you won't be able to exchange your Bitcoin. So what good does it do?
Right.
And
Hey,
that's
Ben,
my concern, guys, with this golden age.
what do you think about this idea that we've heard rumored that Bitcoin was actually a sting operation to catch a lot of these bad guys? Because in the beginning, a lot of Bitcoin was being used because it was decentralized. Now, of course, I understand the good part of decentralized, right, for us and our sovereignty, but the bad guys were able to use it so they couldn't be tracked for money laundering and trafficking and that sort of thing. So what's your feeling about the idea that that was really a very controlled operation?
And I mean, I've got some information about that. I watched an amazing podcast with a debriefing. He went into it using AI, and it is quite possible that Bitcoin was a white hat sting operation creation.
Okay. So that Jack Cruz completely goes through how crypto became what it is and Bitcoin became what it is.
Okay.
When we hear of the mob, we think the Italian mob. We don't think the Jewish mob.
Well, unless you're from New York.
Well, you guys in New York, yes, you know about the Jewish mob.
Yeah,
Who's
especially the
more
Russian.
powerful, the Italian mob or the Jewish mob?
Yeah. And the Chinese, we got them all here. Yeah.
Well, but we're just talking mob.
Yeah.
The most powerful mob out there is the Jewish mob. They're the bankers.
Yeah.
The Jewish mob was playing behind the Italian mob here in the United States, and Jack Cruz goes through this whole lineage. He goes through everything, guys. He goes through Kennedy assassination. He goes through how they created the technology that they created today. And it's mind blowing as you watch him unfold everything, because he had the opportunity to go into some of these universities that was part of Operation Mockingbird, part of the MK Ultra, where he found he was there to research something else, and he found the MK Ultra files. And so this was always all the Jewish mob. They created crypto to hide the money.
Right.
They learned how the mobsters did it, and then they created their own banking through crypto to hide everything. And it was tied to the military and everything else. He exposes so much that it's literally mind-blowing, and it helps you understand exactly how and why this whole system was set up the way it was, so that they could operate behind the scenes through cryptology. And then it turned into, it turned into Bitcoin. Jeffrey Epstein didn't create Bitcoin. He funded some things with Bitcoin. And yes, Bitcoin was used, and it is used by these people behind the scenes so they can't be tracked. But you got what I say to a lot of people that are in Bitcoin right now, because what they've said to me is, look, the reason why Bitcoin can't be controlled is because it's decentralized, and there's all these different, whether you want to call them servers or whatnot, throughout the world. In order for them to take control of it, they would have to take control of every single one at the same exact moment. Okay. So that's impossible in their world as of a year ago. Well, look at the advent of AI and how smart AI is. AI could take over all of that. In my opinion, it's only a matter of time.
But what if AI has been around longer than we really think it has, and it's really part of the control system that already exists, but they're leading us to think it's this new technology?
And I agree with that at the same, because you guys have to what we have to realize is Tartaria was a super advanced civilization.
Yes.
Super advanced. These were the ones building all these structures. Look at us today in 2026. We build these garbage structures, glass and metal. They were building these beautiful structures, mind-blowing structures. And we don't do that today. It would be too costly. It'd be too expensive. It would take too long.
Well, there's a lot of talk about those buildings because they're all founded, aren't they? So were they built when they said they were built, or did they find them from?
Well, see, and that's what I'm realizing today is even here at the Great Salt Lake, guys.
Yeah.
That is the Dead Sea.
We were talking about that with Jason.
There was a Tartarian structure right on the Great Salt Lake called Saltaire that supposedly burned down. But you got to realize that the fires of the 1830s to the 1850s all across the United States, any of you can look that up. How is it that all these cities caught on fire?
Mm.
And then how is it that mud floods came through and wiped everything out that had anything to do with Tartaria?
Yeah.
And then you got to look at those same time frames. Now, why did we go through and the wars in Europe? Why did they bomb every single thing? They literally took out every single structure. There's no history because they bombed it all. Was any of that necessary?
Right.
No, they were changing history.
Yeah.
They were erasing history.
So Ben, I have a question. So, and this may sound very silly and stupid, but how did they actually destroy Tartaria? What was the, if they were so advanced and they had so much, technology, how were they able to be destroyed?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I do not know. Could they have been infiltrated? Very, very easily. I don't know. Mud floods? That's a great possibility. Wipe them out completely. Because what they're realizing now is that these EMPs, electromagnetic pulses or energy weapons,
yeah,
they're not new. They're not new.
No. So where's the Great Salt Lake? Is that in the USA?
What's that?
Where's the Great Salt Lake? Is that in the USA?
Yeah, right outside of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Right. So what do you think about the people that say that the real Israel is actually the United States? Because there's so many.
Well, so if you look at it, there's 7 tributaries that drain into, what is it, the Nile? It's the Nile, right, over there.
Yeah.
There's not 7 tributaries that drain into the Nile. There's 3. There's 7 tributaries that drain into the Mississippi.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the other thing that people don't realize is we have a Dead Sea here. It's called the Great Salt Lake. It is the Dead Sea.
Yes.
Yep.
Super high salt concentrate. And there's cities around here that are named after cities back there.
Yeah,
ancient cities. In the Grand Canyon, there's Phoenician artifacts and gold. 90% of the Grand Canyon you can't even go into. It's protected by the federal government.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why would they protect the Grand Canyon like that?
Because that's where a lot of history is, and that's where a lot of the gold is as well, apparently, and precious metal.
Correct. And then Christ disappeared for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
There's stories of that Christ came down through the Grand Canyon.
I can say that.
His uncle was a merchant. So I want you guys to realize something. There's so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
And so much that we've been told. And I'm going to go back to Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus discovered America. Right? That's what we've been told. Christopher Columbus was kicked out of Spain, and all the Jews were kicked out of Spain in 1492. So he didn't discover America. He came to America with all those Jews. That's what his ships were full of, were all the Jews that were exiled out of Spain. So the history that we know and the history that we've been told is all garbage. And it's up to us because, guys, you got to realize they were telling us Hitler burned all the books. What books did Hitler actually burn?
Yeah.
The smut, the porn, and the bestiality, and all this
satanic stuff.
Pornography and satanic garbage that was the Jewish Kabbalah and all this other garbage that they had brought and created. Where did the Jews of Germany come from? Let's start with Palestine. The Palestinian people opened their arms to the Jews that were kicked out of Europe and out of Germany. And those Jews came in They brought them in their houses. They gave them places to live. And then all of a sudden, the Jews are kicking them out of their own houses.
Yeah. Well,
So unsuspectingly,
haven't they?
yes, unsuspectingly, they bring them in, being nice to them. They welcome them in with open arms into Palestine. And then all of a sudden, they realize their country's being taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
So those Jews came from Germany. Where did the Jews from Germany come from?
Khazaria.
Russia. Well, the Khazarian area.
Russia kicked out all the Jews in 1903, and Germany opened up their arms and welcomed them all into Germany. And it took about 30 years, and they're realizing, holy shit, we got to get rid of these people, because Germany was so broken down through World War I, and the Judean anchors of the world declared war on Germany 8 years before the war. They declared war on Germany. Germany didn't declare war on them. Germany was defending itself. But Germany realized, we have got to get these people out of our country, because they had this is where the wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread came from. Weimar Germany. They were so destitute and without anything, they were starving as a nation. They had mother-daughters that you could buy for prostitution because they had no money.
Yeah.
They had child brothels. The very first transgender surgery was in 1932, 1933 in Berlin, Germany, by a Jewish doctor. Because this is what they do. That's why they've been kicked out of 109 countries. And so then as I've been studying things, and we've been indoctrinated here in the United States through the Schofield Bible, which was commissioned by the Rothschilds to teach all of our priests and pastors and bishops about, and include the Jews, Zionism and all that stuff, this Judeo-Christian culture that's a lie. That these Jews claiming to be the bloodline are not the bloodline. They're the Edomites, the Canaanites. They're the Edomites that practice Canaanite religion. And they were the ones that God did not choose. The line of Judah was who they chose. They weren't called Jews back then. They were the line of Judah, the Judeans. But we've been indoctrinated through this whole web and string of lies to where we don't even, because guys, our age, we realized this, that we didn't really look into religion because it was rammed down our throats. Whether you liked it or not, you were getting religion, right? So we didn't really investigate. A lot of us didn't.
Right.
And now that it's coming full circle, we're being not forced, we're being inspired to look at it, because we're recognizing we're being lied to.
Yeah, I mean, when I woke up and I started looking at things, I pretty much had to discard everything I already knew or thought I knew.
Yeah.
Because you just got to go there and start again.
Well, and so that's why we've got to, what's happening is we're actually remembering. That's what's going on, guys.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on. We talk about that all the time. It's not really waking up to new stuff. It's the collective consciousness that we're all remembering.
Correct. And I'm not talking some new age Christ consciousness garbage, but it is Christ consciousness is coming up through all of us. The remembering of who we actually are, because it's in our DNA. You carry this in your DNA. They can lie to you all they want because we're trapped in our ego. And so we run with the lies, but the remembering is so quiet. Yeah. And it is coming up.
It's also the vibration and the frequency, because they've done such a great job keeping us in a low fear vibration. But as we're all starting to raise, be in love, spread that gratitude, the frequency naturally is going to enable us to think more clearly. And then what they've done to our pineal, so now you have a whole a whole bunch of people who are saying, wait, I have to decalcify that. That's my connection to everything within me. So they had a really good system. I mean, they had a great system.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen it, I've put the Greatest Story Never Told documentary there, about 6.5 hours long it is, about Hitler and the Bolsheviks and all these things. Amazing watch.
This is why you're seeing come across social media a lot right now. The painter was right. Hitler was known as the painter. The painter was right. And so when we speak of frequency, because we have to recognize this, guys, there's so much of our bodies that are water. Water carries frequency. Yeah. And so what they did was they disrupted the frequency by changing frequency from good to bad to be disruptive to us. So all of our music frequency was changed to be disruptive. All of our television frequencies, all the Bluetooth that we're wearing, all the technology that we wear, Wi-Fi in our houses, disrupt everything. And so that's as I go through and I see what Trump and them are doing, and they're doing a lot. I'm not saying that they're not. But I am, if you guys remember the old Who song, the new boss is the same as the old boss. I don't know what that song's called, but that's the famous words in that, the famous lyrics in that song. You cannot trade a new boss for an old boss or an old boss for a new boss. You need to be your own boss. And that means you need to be sovereign.
Well, I think
this nation was.
Yeah, sorry,
say that again.
Trump meant when he said we're giving power back to you, the people, but the people have got to fucking man up and woman up and take it back.
Correct, but let me ask this. Does Trump have the power to do that? No. Only the people have the power to take it.
Yeah.
And so if the people are so indoctrinated and have the majority follow like sheep to a Judas goat, what happens? And I'll give you an example, guys. We go over and we take out the head of Iraq or Iran. We literally, Trump has said, you Iranian people, you're a proud people. You need to stand up and take your country back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now think about that. They're totally Republic Islamic. Not entirely. They're still, Bahia is a religion over there. My gal is Bahia. She's from Iran. She's been here 30 years. She literally cried with tears of joy when they took out Khomeini. And many Iranians did, because they've been pushed out of their country. And they are a proud people. But Islam has taken over that whole region.
Yeah.
So does it matter if you take out the heads of the government if Islam is rooted throughout that whole region? It's still going to be Islam.
We've seen a lot of videos come out that from Iranian people that are basically saying that this Islam was forced upon them.
That's right.
You know, and,
correct.
They have the Persian history. Yeah.
Yes. But see, this is where we are misled. There's so many that say the Shah was such a great guy and Iran was free. No, guys, he wasn't any nicer than Saddam Hussein or any of these other government entities that were staying in power. He was still ruthless. So this idea that the people were free, no, they were free to dress like we dressed here in America. They really weren't free, guys. He was still a hardline ruler. And so through Britain was losing control of Iran. That's how the Ayatollahs got in there. And then the United States didn't step in. And then Jimmy Carter and them lost complete control. And then Reagan had to come back in and take our hostages. And it's been the Ayatollahs ever since.
Yeah.
But I want to point something out to you that is just mind-numbing to me. There's so many people in America here. So we were no new wars, guys, right? That's how Trump got in. 80 million people said no new wars. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we're going to war over in Iran. Whether it's going to be a war or not is yet to be told. And I think it's going to be over in a short period of time because we've got the weaponry. We've got everything we need to dispatch this thing with hell and damnation to that country. And Trump is telling its people to step up and take over and take power away from their government that's killing them. Isn't our government killing us too through COVID? Think about the irony here. Our own government is guilty of doing every single thing that we're going over to fight in another nation for. And people are like, yeah, let's go fight for them. But they won't even fight for their own damn country.
I know.
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's like, do you not see the irony in what you're saying? Let's go shed American blood in our soldiers and our treasure in a foreign country that has nothing to do with us for Israel, who are the Edomites, the most evil people on the planet who are controlling everything through Jeffrey Epstein and how they blackmailed everybody. They did kill Charlie Kirk, whether anybody wants to believe that or not. They took him out. They took over TPUSA, and everybody's like, oh, they're so Christian. God bless.
Right.
And all this shit's going on in our own country, and we're not even looking at it saying, that's ironic. That's kind of weird. Our government killed us through COVID. How many hundreds of thousands, if not millions upon tens of millions, have died from COVID shot? And the frustrating thing for me is in this truther movement, in this freedom movement, in this sovereignty movement, and the Q movement, well, they're just casualties of war. I don't accept that. I don't accept that, guys. There was no.
How would you take out a whole system, though? I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of years. You're talking about a mafia. So, and I'm not taking a side here. I'm just saying objectively, you had to have a certain amount of infiltration. You do have casualties when you're trying to do operations. You're trying to save millions of children. So what I'm saying is, how would you have solved it?
I'm still on board with Trump, but I don't think the golden age is going to be what everybody thinks it's going to be. I think it's going to be a new control grid. It's not going to be we're going to now have all this money and everything's going to be kumbaya and where the world's going to get along. Although I think it's going to be a completely different landscape worldwide. I do think Xi Jinping and Putin and Trump are working together. I do believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I do believe they're taking the deep state out of everything. And I hope to God, guys, that we are truly saving Israel for last. I hope to God that that is truly what is going on.
Yeah.
And so I was in a conversation with 107. Oh, this is probably 4 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago. And Juan I just said to Juan, I said, dude, I'm completely against Israel. I've got no love for Israel. I know all their history of what they've done. Why is Trump backed by all these Zionists and why is he accepting all of them? Because that's a concern, and that's a concern of a lot of people, and a lot of people are fleeing from Trump because of this. And I'm going to tell you exactly what he told me. And I agree with it. Ben, AIPAC is the largest lobbying group in the world. The world. Not just here. Mm-hmm. The world. If Trump didn't allow them to get behind him and allow them to get involved, he would never have become president.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Correct. Sun Tzu.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I'm going to say this, like I've said many times before. Did you guys see what's the show? The Hobbits.
Oh yeah.
I don't watch those type.
What is it called? You've got to watch this one though.
Yeah.
It's Game of Thrones comes to my mind, but that's not it. It's gosh, what is it called? Look it up.
Yeah, I am. It's Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And in the Lord of the Rings, they killed the big evil guy. Well, he holds the ring, and he built rings for all the kings of men, all the elf kings, all the dwarf kings. Every system of kings had rings built by him. And his one ring controlled them all. So now you got all of them are now fighting the evil. And he's the one big evil guy that's coming through, and he's a giant. He's literally walking through with his sword and just slaying swaths of people by every sword swipe. And he comes, and the king actually gets knocked over, and his horse is on top of him, and he's coming over to kill the king. And the king's son was sitting there, and he reaches over and he sees the king's sword that is broken because he hit the sword of the big guy. And his sword's laying there on the ground broken. And so then the I can't remember what the bad guy's name is, but he comes up to grab the king, and the son takes that broken sword and stabs him in the face, and it kills him. So he vaporizes and the ring drops. Well, the son picks up the ring, and of course it's too big to put on his own finger, so he puts it on a necklace around his neck. Well, the story goes on that they have to take this ring back to Mordor, where all these rings were made, and the elf king, who had been fighting these evil wars in the underworld for a long time before the mortal men came to play, and before these guys. And so now this is the final. They finally get this ring. Well, all they have to do to change the whole landscape and the whole future of everything is take this ring back and throw it in the lava in Mordor, where these rings were founded. And so they get up there, and the elf king is walking in there, and they're inside Mordor, the mountain, and they're walking to the edge where the lava's flowing. And again, all he has to do is throw the ring in there. He walks in, and he looks at the elf king, and the elf king says, "Throw it in." And he looks at him again, and he all of a sudden puts a big smile on his face, and he takes the ring and he puts it on his finger. He's now in control of the entire world and the underworld. And it's because that evil guy didn't die until they threw that ring in the lava. Now the evil guy was in this new king controlling him. So think about Trump. Mm-hmm. Trump has the power and the ability to change the landscape of the world due to his position. But absolute power absolutely corrupts every single time, guys.
Well,
but I'm saying all these people that say white hats are in control, I'm not buying it. Because I've got insiders that are saying we haven't won this war yet, guys. We're still a ways away from this war being won. And I'm not into this whole idea of all these people are clones and Hillary Clinton's already dead and all these people are already dead and it's got to just play out. I'm not buying into that garbage, guys. I'm just not.
Well, what we can do is keep doing what we're doing. Educate ourselves, become more spiritual, wake up as many people as we can, and ultimately have your faith in God and benevolence that we will overcome and God wins. You can't.
And how God wins is through us.
Yeah. Exactly.
By us being spiritually connected. And so you've got to drop religion. Religion is a control factor of men, meant to make you operate at a lower vibration than what you're capable of operating at.
That's right.
Because guys, I'm going to say something that just freaks people out. I don't think Christ is coming back the way that they think he's coming back. I think Christ already came back. And he showed us one more time. I'm going to show you this is how you need to be. And the only way to the Father is through the Son. And he told us the only way is to go within. And he even made another great statement that most people just don't know, because we've never been taught these things, because we've been taught this guilt, shame, garbage, that we're never going to be good enough and we'll never be Christ-like. Guess what? You will never be Christ. Well, you will never be like Christ. You've heard that a million times. Well, you're right, because there's only one Christ. You can't be like Christ. You can only be like you. But he said this one incredible statement: ye shall go forth and do greater things than I.
Yeah.
If you're not capable of doing anything greater than him, why would he tell you you are? Yeah. And we've got to quit buying into these control grids and these people that are in control and then telling us that we don't have the power, because right now what we've done is, over the years, we've exalted doctors and lawyers, attorneys. Now we've got politicians so exalted that we are under them, and we're not. We are above them, because that's what we've got to get the populace to recognize. God created man. Man created government. Government's beneath us. Yeah. And when our founding fathers came here to America, and I'm going to say the people that came to America, not the founding fathers, they didn't want to be governed, guys. They wanted to be left the hell alone. They wanted to be good people. We are inherently good people.
Yes.
This is why they give us scary movies and murder and people shooting people constantly nonstop on TV. This is why I don't watch TV. It's just garbage. What movie did we just go see? I went and saw the new Dracula movie, because Dracula's not who we were told he was. Do you guys know that? Dracula was fighting Islam. That's who he was fighting. That's why he was called Vlad the Impaler, because he impaled them on pikes. There was much larger armies coming to take him out, but he scared the shit out of them because he impaled all of their soldiers on pikes. And they thought, this dude is totally evil. And he wasn't evil.
We've been lied to about everything, Ben.
Yeah.
Everything. That's why and so you can't believe that you can't believe the lies have stopped just because somebody gets in office.
Oh, I don't. We side-eye everyone, and it is down to us to use our discernment. Absolutely. Now, Elisa and I and yourself, that's all we do, really. We try and live our lives. We get out into nature. We do all these beautiful things, and we study and watch what's going on. But, I think we're going to get there, and good will always overcome evil. So we have to have...
You said the magical word. What was the incredible gift God gave us?
Goodness.
No.
Discernment?
Discernment.
God gave us the one incredible gift of discernment, guys.
Free will.
The ability to tell good from evil and right from wrong. It's within us automatically. You know, as a young child, whether you're doing right or wrong. You know this. You don't have to learn this. It's inherent within you, because you have memory from when you left God and came here.
Yeah.
And so that incredible gift of discernment, they can't take from you. But it's like a muscle. If you don't exercise your discernment, it goes flatlined.
Yep.
And that's the problem with people today, is they've been had religion shoved down their throat so much that they don't even exercise any discernment. They don't have a belief system.
Yeah.
And so we have to exercise our discernment. You have to become the bodybuilder of discernment and flex that muscle, because it truly is what can help you avoid a lot of the hardships that you go through. The worst things that I do, guys, is not listen to that inner voice. 100%. And that inner voice could be something. That inner voice could be something. And I will say this because it's came to me multiple times and I didn't listen. My cousin was dying. We had some bad words. I love my cousin. Don't get me wrong. He's way older than I am. He was 86, 89 at the time that he died. And I hadn't talked to him in months, maybe a year and a half. And I got that little voice that said, hey, you need to go see Cal. Okay, I'm going to go see Cal. Put it off for a couple weeks. You need to go see Cal. Well, Cal died. I just had a customer that I've known for 20 years. Little prompting came to me. Now, he's a Democrat. He got all the jabs. He got everything, guys. Little prompting came to me. You need to go see Jimmy. Just that little voice inside. Okay, yeah, I'll go see Jimmy. A couple weeks later, you need to go see Jimmy. A couple of months later, I see that Jimmy died from the vaccines. Turbo cancer. We're all connected, guys. Energetically connected. How is your energy filled? How is your frequency? Are you in tune to your frequency? Is your discernment in alignment with your frequency? Do you need to exercise your frequency and exercise your discernment? This is the Christ consciousness that is coming up through all of us. That you're going to have this little subtle choice to make. Are you going to exercise your discernment? Are you going to get your frequency in line? Are you going to choose good? Or are you just going to be stuck here in all this stuff that's going on and be an NPC?
Exactly. And that's free will. That's everyone's choice. And that is a beautiful place to end it there, because everyone's learning. And if you're still looking away and you want to do whatever you're doing and not pay attention, that's down to you. But the rest of us will try and win this spiritual battle.
And we got to not give up, everybody, guys. We keep doing what we're doing and keep telling people, and let me rephrase that. Keep inspiring people.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Not talking to them, inspire them, give them little kibbles and bits, not overload them. And we'll make it. We're going to make it.
We will.
Absolutely. This was great. Thank you. There was a lot of information. I know I learned a lot on this. I love when we have you on, because we learn a lot. Thanks for everything you do. It's very important work.
Anything I can do, let me know.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you.
Say that again.
Those frequencies in love.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Where we go, when we go all. Yeah.
Absolutely. You guys have a great week.
All right. You too.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
All right.
In a world flooded with noise, clarity has become rare. People are questioning what they're told and searching for something real. Mr. Heal's modern wellness meets old school remedies. CBD tinctures, methylene blue, gummies and edibles, THC-free wellness, and functional remedies crafted with old school care and modern precision. Biozox, a trusted source for ivermectin and fenbendazole. Biozox, believe your health decisions should be yours, not dictated by politicians or big pharma. Crafted with purpose and precision, freedom forged coffee, cacao and mushroom tinctures, small batch roasted coffee, rich cacao and functional mushrooms crafted with purpose. Verity Metals, redefining what precious metals investing should be. Why choose Verity Metals? We're not just another gold dealer. We're a trusted retirement partner. Our clients choose us because we lead with education, integrity, and transparency. Medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies. We can all agree the healthcare system is broken. There is an alternative. Impact Health Sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. For more information, visit patriotsacrossthepond.com.